everyone, how are you? It's Sarah, who's Painting Creator. I'm hoping you're enjoying my YouTube channel. It's a slow paced YouTube channel for watercolour painting because I live with a long-term chronic illness that impacts on my fatigue levels and my brain function and my cognitive function. So this is particularly aimed at fellow ME sufferers, long COVID sufferers, fibro sufferers, anybody with chronic arthritis, because I empathise with you all. So today I'm going to just do a little mini. I'm doing the smooth side of my little 10 centimetre squared sheet from Temu. The other side's got some nice texture on, that's quite often used, but I'm going to use the smooth side today to see how this painting goes. It's 10 centimetres squared, so you could just mask off some paper and do it on a normal sheet of paper. I am going to use this picture, which is from a friend sent me of the Isle of Harris in Scotland as my sort of starting point today, and as always I'm using it as a starting point. I'm not using it as a way of copying the photo. I'm using it as a inspiration for things. So I'm going to start off about a third of the way down with just a roughly a horizontal line, and then I'm just going to draw on the little hill outlet that goes, island that goes here, and then it comes round, and I'm just going to put it into a cove area, sort of like that. This one's got a little bit of a hill behind it, and then there's actually another hill up here that's quite significant, so we'll see what we do with that one. And then in the distance we've got a range of hills that sort of look a little bit like this. That probably goes down a little bit more, but just run across in the distance. Just going to extend that across just for artistic license. I'm just going to put it behind there. So that's roughly what I'm working with. I don't do a lot of drawing out because I don't like it. So let's start. We've got a nice bright sunny day, so I'm just going to use some cerulean blue off my palette. Leaving some gaps for some clouds. I'm just using my little Winsor & Newton Cotman watercolours today, and my mop brush and things along the way. I'm just going to lift out some cloud shapes with a paper towel. Scrunched up a little bit of paper towel. Helps lift out, and I'm just going to soften some of those edges back with some clean water, just to get a little bit of a feel of just clean water. Take a little bit of water out of your brush and just lift away. There's a point where you feel like you're sort of moving paint around rather than lifting. And that's when you need to wash your brush out. I find these mop brushes are really good. Mine's from Medium, but a lot of the brands now do squirrel mop brushes. So I'm just going to make a little bit of a grey. So I'm just going to, that's the blue that I used in the sky, the cerulean blue. Just going to add a little bit of cadmium red light, and it makes a beautiful grey. I'm just going to grey off some of these clouds. Actually, I'm just going to add a touch of burnt sienna in there as well. There we go, nice and warm and grey clouds across the top. And remember, your picture is your starting point, it's not your finish point. I just want to get rid of that. Soften some there. And once you're happy with your sky, particularly when it's like this and it's starting to dry, you just have to leave it and say, right, okay, that's what I'm going to be working with, because otherwise you overfiddle, you overwork it, and it loses its freshness, and you don't want that. So I'm going to listen to myself. I might just drop a little bit more down in here because I haven't got any pigment down near that hill. And I'm going to let that dry. So I'm probably going to use my hairdryer today. I'll be back in a minute. So I always think of these minis like little mini postcards, which are really quite nice. So I still want a nice light grey. So I'm going to use the cerulean blue and a little touch of burnt sienna, because I want that nice warm grey. A little bit more blue into there. There we go. Nice warm grey colour, and then I'm just going to add a touch of ultramarine blue, just to blue it up a bit. So that ultramarine will just help it stand out from the sky. I'm just going to run these distant hills in. So I put, that was wet on dry. I've washed my brush, taken some of the water out, and then I'm just going to use, wash my brush, take some of the water out, the work of the brush to bring it down and to push that into the background. And because I've got a few colours on my palette, you should be able to see the colours come to life a little bit. And I'm just going to leave that a nice horizontal. I'm trying my best to paint round this and get that sense of this hill being at the front. The other's a little bit further away. I might just lift out a little bit on that one, just to push it back a little bit. There we go. And then darken the front. There we go. Something or nothing, but it's a nice way of just building that backdrop. So I want to do this hill in the background in a similar way, but I'm just going to add a little bit more cadmium red light into this mix. So cadmium red light, cerulean blue, and a tiny bit of burnt sienna to make a grey browny colour. I want it a different colour to that one, but I still want it in the background. And I'm just going to add a tiny bit of ultramarine into there. There we go. And ultramarine, when you're mixing it with other colours, sort of separates out really nicely. And you get this really granulated effect, which is really lovely. Just soften that bit away. There we go. Okay, so I've done the sky, I've done that the distant hills. I'm cooking on gas, I'm just going to dry those off. So these are dry now. So I'm just going to add a little bit of magenta into this to just create a grey purple colour for this hillside, as if it's got all the heather growing on it. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of spring green onto my palette, into that colour. To create that lovely headland that actually comes all the way around. So I'm just adding a bit more spring green into there, a bit more brightness. And a little bit more, a bit even more brightness. And there's going to be flowers under here that will capture that purple. I'm just going to add a little touch of yellow, cadmium yellow, into here. I just want to add a little brightness on this headland here and into this part. That's the sort of mid-ground, foreground bit of the greens. Maybe a little glaze over this bottom part so it separates it out. So you've got distant hill, middle hill, nearer hill. Okay, so I want to just make a sandy sort of colour, so a little bit of raw sienna or raw umber, very light brown, a tiny bit of yellow ochre, building it up to make a nice beachy colour. I'm going to start just adding a little bit of the beach along there, and then the beach has like a spur that comes up and round and goes sort of across like this. The paper's working with me really beautifully for this. I like that sort of settled texture. I'm just going to add a tiny bit of burnt sienna in there just to drop a little bit more information, a bit more brightness of colour into this foreground beach, and just maybe just down the front of that one, just to help it sit down a bit. And guess what, we'll either let that dry or grab a hairdryer, and then we'll come back to it. Okay, so I used my hairdryer for that one. The sea is a really, really beautiful turquoise colour, and then it's got a sort of a turquoise and browny colour at the front. I'll see what I do. Let's start making that lovely turquoise colour. Blues and greens obviously together to make that nice turquoise, and a little bit of cadmium red light will just dull it down a little bit to make like a grey turquoisey colour. So I'm wanting the sea to look like it's sort of coming round the bay. Pushing in. Probably not going to do that brown colour underneath because I don't think it's helpful. But I do want that sense of the sea coming in. I'm just going to add a little bit of ultramarine into this mix just to lift some textures and darker colours into it. If you get a line that you don't like, you just wash your brush, take some of the water out. So I don't like that line, and you just soften it away. Just soften it away. Whilst it's damp, you can soften things away, but actually quite like that tone. I'm just going to bring a little bit up onto the beach here, as if it's running up onto the beach. Quite like that. That's worked quite nicely. And the white just simulates that it's a bit of a rough sea. You can see things are moving. I don't mind the odd run back. If you don't like the run backs, when you go back in with the darker colour, you need to just make sure it's thicker than the paint that you put on underneath, and it'll stay put a little bit more. Just gonna quite like that. So yet again, I'm going to give that a dry, or wait for it to dry. I'm probably going to give it a dry. So finally I'm going to just add the flowers of the foreground. So I'm going to use a dark some purple, which is a really nice bright purple, and I'm probably going to add some alizarin crimson into that for alternative colours. And I'm just randomly putting those flowers all over. You could, if you're feeling brave, cover over and give this a splatter as well. I might do that. I might feel brave. It depends how much control you like. I do quite like the control sometimes as to where they're going to go, and I don't want too much predictability. I want the randomness. So I'm just going to add a little bit of alizarin crimson into there. That's a dark 50-50 dark some purple and alizarin crimson mix. Just to add a little bit of variety, because variety is the spice of life. Into the little wildflowers. And then into that mix, I'm just going to add a little bit of ultramarine blue. So it's keeping it all in the same hue, but slightly different colours. For the foreground, I'm just going to build that up. Quite like it to be asymmetrical. Quite nice. It'd look quite nice with yellows or oranges. It could be the little gorse heather bushes. So I'm going to give that a try again. I've just also added a little bit of the same colour onto this. I quite like the joining the two colours up with it. So now I'm just going to pick up some Viridian Green. A really useful colour, but not by itself. It doesn't look natural to me. And I'm just going to add a little bit of Prussian blue. Oh, a lot of Prussian blue in there. Maybe I'll just add a bit of yellow, cadmium yellow. That'll sort it out. And then a little bit of cadmium red. Make like a nice dark greeny colour. So I've just changed onto my rigger brush, and I'm just going to use the rigger brush to randomly draw some stems really onto the flowers. I'm obviously not trying to connect them all, but I have that sort of feeling that there's a meadow happening. Painting off the masking tape does help at times, getting some thick I'm just going to add in some grasses. Still using this same dark for a minute. Different shapes and directions just to build a little bit of texture. So I'm just going to grab a little bit of that cadmium yellow and a tiny bit of that to make a nice bright yellow. I'm just going to add some brightness into this little foreground. That's the bright, quite high pigment. Just brightens it up a little bit. Add a little bit more, you get a mid-tone. I'm just going to run a little bit of that mid-tone down this headland area. A bit more information. Ultra brush. And just rigger brush is really good at just sort of pushing some of the paint into the hill, the grassland. I like that change of there we go. So I don't want this to be too complicated. Might just run another little bank of grass into there, smooth it away. There we go. there we go, the Isle of Harris. So I hope you've enjoyed this little one. I think this little one will probably make a nice larger painting if that's what you're looking for. But at the moment my energies are such that I can only do little ones. So I hope you've enjoyed joining me. As always, just peel your masking tape away from the painting, because then if it rips, it at least rips away. Oh, there we have our little beauty. Grab your ink pen if you're anything like me. I'm going to write on it the Isle of Harris. So I remember where it is, and it's in Scotland. And I'm just going to sign it. Oh. And it's March now. So I hope that's giving you some nice ideas. Of what you can do. Faffing with my ink pen now, so I better stop. But I do like my ink pen. I hope you've enjoyed that. So, the Isle of Harris.